I was using frozen berries and they're not quite thawed enough. Can't really crush them yet, so I'll let them sit just a little bit longer. All right, we got just about everything ready to go here. We've got the canner with the jars. The saucepan I'll be using, always need hot pads. I've measured out my 4 cups of sugar. My Sure-Jell is ready. This tool helps me get the hot jars in and out of the canner. Got rings, clean lids. This tool will help me measure if I have the right headspace. The funnel, super handy, definitely need a ladle. And I use a glass bowl and a metal spoon to skim the foam off the top of the jam before I load the jars. And I'm still waiting on my frozen berries. Getting closer. Who are you?
Miss County.
The berries are almost there. They're starting to crush underneath the potato masher. The recipe says that you can either chop them or crush them. If you would like to chop them, you can put them in a food processor or a blender, chop them up a little bit. I'm crushing them simply because I would much rather wash my potato masher than wash my blender. All right, it looks like we're doing pretty good here. We're gonna keep the berries and the juice. Since this is jam, we want both. We'll measure it out, make sure we have 4 cups of berries and juice. I've got 4 cups of crushed blueberries in their own juice, ready for the saucepan. We need to add Sure-Jell. The entire packet goes in. Mix that together. And then we're going to bring this to boil on high heat. As soon as it boils, we will add our 4 cups of sugar. While I'm waiting on my mixture to boil, I've turned up the heat on the canner so that the jars are warm enough. This is about to a full rolling boil, which means that while you're stirring, the boil keeps going. You don't stir down the boil. And as soon as it hits the full rolling boil, I will add all of the 4 cups of sugar at once, return it to a boil, and boil it for 1 straight minute. We'll get this back to a boil and start the timer for 1 minute. We're at a boil again after we've added the sugar. You can see it's starting to foam around the edges. We'll skim that off. We just finished boiling for 1 straight minute after adding the sugar. And now you can see there's a little bit of foam around the edges here. I'm just going to use my spoon to scrape the foam off the top. Okay, we're ready to load jars. Get my lid off here. I'll pull the rack out so the jars are easier to get to. Load 1 jar at a time. Got my funnel here. Fill it with the jam. With jams and jellies, you want a 1/4 inch headspace. And I can test that with the tool that I've got. And it's perfect. And I've just wet the edge of this drying towel just a touch so that I can wipe any goop off the edge of the jar. Lid, ring, finger tight. You don't over tighten it, you'll have problems. And then I put it back into the canner and go on to my next jar. Jams and jellies require 1/4 inch headspace. I'm a little high here. We'll just take some of that back out. Looks good. Be sure to wipe the rim with a damp towel, especially for things like jams and jellies because they're sticky. And if there's any food on the rim before you put the lid down, your jar won't seal. All right, I've got my canner loaded with full jars. I was able to get 6 half pints. I'm going to lower the wrap into the canner. You want to make sure that your jars are fully submerged. I'm going to set this one upright. It fell over a little bit here. Make sure they're fully submerged. Put the lid back on and leave it on. And as soon as it comes to a full boil, we will start the time. The jam recipe calls for 10 minutes of processing time. We're in Nebraska and I need to add 5 minutes to my processing time. So I will time mine for 15 minutes once it starts boiling. We've reached a full rolling boil inside the canner. I'll set my timer for 15 minutes. And now that the timer is going, we're not going to open the canner. We're going to wait until the time is up to remove it from the heat. All right, there's our timer for processing. We're going to go ahead and take this off the heat. Remove the lid. We're going to let this sit here in the canner for another 5 minutes and cool down a little, and then we will take them out of the canner. All right, the timer went off. It's been 5 minutes since we took the canner off the heat. Let's go ahead and take out these jars. You want to keep them upright as you're lifting them out. There'll be water on top of the lids. It'll evaporate just fine. You don't need to do anything about it. You want to be sure not to push down on the lid. That way you'll know that it's sealed correctly. And probably here in a minute or so we'll start hearing these lids pop. Last one. Okay, they're all out. We'll let these sit here overnight, and in the morning we will check the seals. I had a little bit of extra jam that wouldn't fill an entire jar, so I'll save this, but I really like these leak-proof lids. You can buy them at Walmart, but they fit right onto the top of the jar. One piece, easy. Okay, these have been sitting on the counter overnight. We're going to take the rings off and check the seals. A great way to check the seals is to pick the jar up by only the flat, and if it doesn't come up, it is sealed properly and ready to be stored. Everything looks great. I'll label them and store them with the rings off in a single layer, don't stack, and I'll put them in the cabinet.